we can just sort of chat.
Sure.
And from what I gathered from Catalina is that you said that angel investors are not necessarily the answer to entrepreneurs. It's not proven that their existence is really necessary, or is that
a proven policy instrument?
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any evidence that angel investing or angel networks are an effective policy tool. They exist, and the good ones in the United States make money. But to extrapolate from the fact that the top-tier angel groups or angel networks in Silicon Valley or Boston make money, to extrapolate that into a policy tool which says let's foster angel groups in undeveloped ecosystems is a huge leap. That I call it striping the zebra. You can't take a white horse and paint it with black stripes and call it a zebra. They have to grow in certain environment. And also angel networks, if you look at the history of how angel investing has evolved, it's evolved in the context of a very vibrant ecosystem of lots of venture capital and lots of entrepreneurship and lots of public capital markets, IPOs, acquisitions. So I think you have, if you want to use it as a policy tool, you have to inform the angel investors that very likely for the next 5 to 10 years they'll be losing money. And you have to inform them of that because that's the evidence. The evidence is they'll probably lose money for a long period of time. Is that fair to create a program in which you're asking private individuals who are investing in order to make money that they actually lose money? So I think it's really important. I think angel investing is critical, but it has to exist in a context of many different kinds of capital markets, the existence of debt financing, of institutional equity financing, and of public markets, liquidity events, the ability to make money. It's very important, I think, in the early stages of angel investing, in the early stages of the evolution of an ecosystem, also to think of creative ways, creative instruments, creative securities in which they can actually exit sooner than they would under the normal scheme of things of, say, going public or being acquired, because that could take 5, 7, 8, 9 years. So it's a very complicated topic. I just caution governments against extrapolating from the fact that they exist in nature in the context of an ecosystem, extrapolating that therefore you can create them almost in isolation. So that's the main issue.
Do you have an example of creative financial tools that
there are
could
many.
replace?
There are for example, it's sometimes called royalty-based investing, in which the investors get their money back as a royalty of sales once the company starts selling. And so they can get their money back much, much sooner than when the company, for example, goes public or lists its shares or sells its shares to an acquirer. That's just one example. And the other kinds.
You said something that you said sort of to the government, whatever you do not in your presentation about investing and
don't invest directly in companies. I think it's very risky for governments to invest directly. That doesn't mean they can't fund or support. But what I said and what I believe is, I think in general, and there are exceptions. Any rule, there are exceptions. But in general, I think it's important for governments to stay off the balance sheets of companies. So there are ways of providing off-balance sheet financing that are very effective, like in grants of various kinds. The minute the government gets on the balance sheet, they have a fiduciary obligation to pursue the interests that are represented by their presence on the balance sheet. So if they're holders of debt, they have to pursue the servicing of that debt aggressively. And that may contradict the social goals that a government should have. So those are just some examples.
I had a final question. If you were to choose one single tool that could be basic, fundamental, to sort of develop an ecosystem for entrepreneurs, what would that be?
Well, I think the whole message of the ecosystem approach is that there isn't one single tool. It's really looking at the whole complex of factors, using a lot of experience and a lot of judgment, and deciding in the context of an extremely specific situation and a unique situation, as specific, for example, as Manizales, Colombia, or Barranquilla, or a specific city, and deciding what are the right complex of incentives, supports, procedures, processes, opportunities, and so on that are appropriate for that particular setting. And I think that's one of the most important messages. It's not an easy one to hear because policymakers would love to have a silver bullet. Let's provide tax credits, for example, to hire unemployed workers. Well, we know from experience that these isolated policies tend not to work, and oftentimes they even backfire. They create the opposite of what you intend sometimes.
Excellent.
¿Es suficiente?
Suficiente, absolutamente perfecto.